Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day. So we're going to go ahead and get started on today's service, and we're going to begin with an opening song by Dalton. Welcome, Dalton.
We're being very high-tech this morning. We get to watch the screen descend, like bum, 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 ba-ba! It's that kind of thing. As it comes down, I'd like to say hello. I've always wanted to front a band, but I've never been able to talk anybody else into it. So this morning, I have decided to be the band. All the instruments you're going to hear played were played by me sometime earlier this week. And this first song is a song called Invisible Hands. It's by Jan Garrett and J.D. Morton. So I very much hope, as soon as this screen... and that's the first note of it. A little more? I think that's going to be good. Let's give this a try, shall we? When a child believes he'll live his dreams, his prayers are heard, he fears no thunder, and when he falls, he safely lands, guided by invisible hands. When a mother cries, she hides her tears, says the Lord provides, but can't help wonder who'll give a child what his heart demands. Oh, invisible hands. Lost in the darkness, we are lifted by love. Whisper and somebody hears. And if we dare to make that leap of faith, somehow the bridge appears. When the silent storm knocks me down, and the time and tide they pull me under, I'll stand again on these shifting sands, held by invisible hands. Whoa, invisible hands. Whoa, invisible hands. Whoa, invisible hands. Whoa, invisible hands. Lost in the darkness, we are lifted by love. Whisper and somebody hears. And if we dare to make that leap of faith, somehow the bridge appears. When a child believes he'll live his dreams, his prayers are heard, he fears no thunder, and when he falls, he safely lands, guided by invisible hands. Whoa, invisible hands. Oh, invisible hands. Oh, invisible hands. Oh, invisible hands. Invisible hands. Invisible hands. Invisible hands. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dalton, for upping our technology here. This is great. So I think we should do that more often. That's really fun. Great. Thank you. So I'm going to invite the children up, and as we do that, we'll sing to them, and then you can turn around, and another technology feature we have, you get to wave to the camera and wave to everybody out there. Well, good morning again. Such a beautiful day. And so we welcome everybody here today for this service. And we know that today is a special day, because it's always a special day. So we welcome you with a deep heart. And we thank everyone who showed up early, and the people in the Lindy and Joey in the sound booth, and our musicians, Dalton and Judy. And so we have the kitchen cookies, so it's always fun to go back there, and have a snack and say hi to somebody you don't know, or just visit with your friends. So we invite you to do that. So we'd like to welcome anybody new today. If you want to raise your hand, we'll bring you a packet if there's anybody new. Well, then we get to congratulate everybody for their birthday. Do we have any birthdays in April? Hey, we got a couple, so we're going to sing happy birthday. So we're going to go over a few focus announcements, but I did want to remind everyone that if you're not on the email mailing list for a midweek update, just see Sylvia at the board desk. And Sylvia, I think this is your first time on the board desk as a brand new board member, so we welcome Sylvia. So it's a good way to find out what's going on for the week and the upcoming week. And it's just a wonderful way to touch base and to stay with the community. And also we have the monthly awareness that you can sign up for and either get that emailed to you or mailed to you as well. And then we have our Facebook page as well. So we have a few announcements here. The art and collectibles sale that you see out in the foyer, today's the last day, and it's a great fundraising event. And we have some featured artists. One of them is John Boyd May, who's a prominent painter in the Bay Area, very prominent back in the 1960s. He has some wonderful art out there. It was featured at one time in National Geographic. So just take a look at that, and then all the other wonderful pieces of art and collectibles. So far it's been a very successful campaign, but today's your day to go check out anything that you still may want to have. The other thing, we have the Endowment Fund grants. This is an annual grant opportunity. We take the earnings from the Endowment Fund and make that available for grants. And so the applications are at the board desk or in the back. And so if you think of something that you think the center could use, whether it be with the sound system or something you see around the building or on the grounds, anything that you think of that would help enhance and improve the experience here at the center, you can put together a grant for that. So you could still check with Sylvia for that as well if you want to pick up an application. We have a survey going on as well. It's a center survey. And so we're wanting to hear from you some of your thoughts about, perhaps the services or things that are going on around the center. And so there's a series of questions that you can respond to. You can pick that up in the back, and we would love to hear from you. We have a Tao of watercolor exploring elements of composition for original watercolor paintings. That's a mouthful. So Sherry-Ann Wyndham, who's our wonderful teacher here, for the art classes and painting classes, she has a class starting April 10th. You may have seen it advertised as starting April 3rd, but it's moved to April 10th, and it'll be for 5 weeks. Self-Mastery, Emergence of True Self. It's a class with Christy Carr, one of our practitioners. There she is. And that's going to start April 6th, 5:30 to 8 p.m. And you can talk to Christy afterwards if you have any questions about that. And then Christy again has a workshop coming up on April 8th. So that's Beads and More. So that's from 1 to 4. And I know that everyone who's attended that has thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's just a fun time as well. Then we have our Easter service that's coming up next Sunday, and Reverend Sue is going to speak to that during her talk or towards the end of it. But we want to invite you to come next Sunday to our service, and again, you'll hear a little bit more about that coming up. And then we have a class with Reverend Sue, Living Spiritual Truth, and it's starting April 12th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And each week you're going to explore and share the insights that bring to life the wisdom of the Yoga Sutras. And so it's a very deep, meaningful class and lots of great discussion, and I always feel that being in class is, I learn more from, well, I learned from you too. I did that before once. But it's like you learn so much from the people who attend the class and they're sharing. Very, very wonderful, I think. And so it's based on the wonderful work of Suzanne Kohling in her book, Yoga Mind. And then Dr. Mary has her caregiver support group. It's Thursdays, starting April 13th, 10 a.m. to noon. Once a month. On April 13th is the next one. Yeah, so the second Thursday. Anything else? So the Awareness bookstore. So Lori has put together a nice order and has started receiving new items and more are coming in. So make sure you check out the bookstore, especially if you're looking for a gift for someone or just for yourself. So that's the conclusion of our announcements. And again, you can check them out in your program that you received, or you can go online and check that out. So now I'd like to invite Steve up to do our reading, followed by the bell 3 times, and then I'll be doing a spiritual mind treatment.
Hi. This is a poem which I wrote last week as I was sitting back there in the board desk. Sue gave a wonderful, really wonderful talk about shame, which is not a particularly easy subject to talk about. But she really endeavored to go into the subtleties of it because of the importance of being able to recognize specifically what the undercurrents in our lives are that keep us from being free. So anyway, yes, it was wonderful, and I'm impatient, so she did it in over 45 minutes, and this is a synopsis in about 45 seconds. Maybe a little longer. I'll try to stretch it out. And it's called Shameless. Just so you know, all those stories of your inadequacy are true. And they're only stories. And in the present moment are empty shadows, visible for us when we turn away from the light, but only visible to others when we step into that shadow and believe that the traumas of the past are still alive, kept alive by the stories without a plot in the here and now, keeping us from improvising in this truthful flow. We recite lines we already know from another drama long ago. We are not that. Forget your lines. Love this moment. Love the entirety of yourself, shamelessly.
please join with me in knowing and recognizing that today is a beautiful day. A beautiful day of sunshine, a beautiful day of love, and a beautiful day of soul consciousness. And so please know with me that we are in the presence of the one Spirit, one love of God. And that today I allow that to flow through each and every one of us, as us, in its own unique but beautiful way. But all with the presence of the one. So I allow myself to go deep and to resonate with the love that's in this room and the consciousness in this room, knowing that we are a community, a strong community, a community that's bound together by spirit. And today we come together to hear the words of Reverend Sue as she has prepared this message from her heart, from the love in her heart. And so we listen deeply, and we allow the words to penetrate, and we allow the consciousness of this room and the love of this room to be infused through each and every one of us. So I give thanks for today, for this message that we are about to hear, and for the service, and for this community. So I release these words and this prayer into law, knowing full well it is so, and together we say, and so it is. Reverend Sue.
I made it. So, thank you, Steve, for that reading of that poem. I just found it very touching and very succinct on me up here going, wah, 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 and he comes up with, this is what you meant to say? Yeah, in so many words. So, and always you, Dalton. I just love it when you're here. So the interesting, the whole topic this year is living out loud, and last month we spent a lot of time looking at our authenticity. And underlying our authenticity, of course, is being willing to walk in our vulnerability as well. And I got through all that month going, whew, boy, that was some deep stuff. And then I think, what's this month? The power of vulnerability. And I went, oh my gosh, I have to keep going. I have to keep going. So I take you by the hand and lead with our hearts into this message today. And this is really defining and aligning is what the title is, because we can all have our assumptions of what that means to be vulnerable. And I've shared with you before that messages that I know we're going to be sharing together each week, I live that during the week. So I just find it so interesting that here we are with this power of vulnerability, and I thought, okay, I'm just really going to hold myself together today. And then that song from Dalton was like, okay, these hands, these invisible hands. Cultivating loving kindness when people treat us unfairly or hurtfully helps us, think about that, helps us by keeping our hearts open in the moment of being hurt. Openness does not mean we let ourselves be victims of abuse. We simply allow ourselves to be our most loving, and that is vulnerable. David Rico. Powerful statement, because I thought, that's a key point there, cultivating loving kindness, loving, as Ram Dass would say, loving awareness, back to our own source, back to our own heart. And that's a challenge, to keep our heart open when we have been deeply hurt. It's our natural tendency in all of us to recoil, just like the sea anemones. If you've ever gone to the tide pools and you just want to gently poke one and just watch all the little fibers, just turn in onto themselves. And I know that that's really their way of digesting and taking in, but it always reminds me of sort of what the heart feels like. Oh, ow, that stung, and you feel this sense of contraction. That's what it feels like to be threatened. But what do we do with that? How do we stand up with that spiritually? How do we navigate? I think about how do we navigate the spiritual path, knowing that at times, we'll have to endure something that is a setback and hurts our hearts. It can even be deep grief. It can be the possibility, even worrying about an outcome, fearing an outcome. And we can allow ourselves to get kind of worked up into that, right? It's the human condition. We usually talk to a friend. We usually try to suppress it as well. Not usually, but sometimes we do. So the spiritual and the emotional heart is what is a treasure, really, inside of each one of us. It's really offering us the guidance to help us lead our way. And cultivating a sense of loving awareness with this, practicing loving awareness, loving kindness, that is the key to finding our way. So we need to really recognize when we're being just way too overly sensitive. You hurt my feelings because you said my hair looks stupid. That kind of stuff is shallow. I mean, maybe we may really care about that things, but I'm talking about the deep things where we are vulnerable to life situations. And we want to define what that is and clarify what it is so we grow together and we can expand our awareness to what's going on around us for this key component to our personal transformation on this journey that we call life. Time and again, I found people saying, I'm doing the spiritual life so that everything will be good. That's great. But things will come along the way. And it's not that you've done anything wrong, but grief happens, hurt happens. And so it's what do we do with that after we've sat with it for a while and really looked at it deeply and held on to it honestly. And here's what Robert Raines says. He's an author. To go with the flow of life is to live without a map. To be vulnerable to having your plans change, your heart broken, your dreams unfulfilled. It is to trust that God is in the rapids of change as well as in the rocks of continuity. It is being able to stop digging your heels in against the tide of tomorrow. It's exercising a suppleness of spirit in which you respond to the nudgings and promptings of grace. I love that. Moment by moment, day by day, a kind of love-making with life, day by day, moment by moment, because we cannot predict what is just around the corner. So last month, we did shape our understanding of authenticity, and the idea of vulnerability continued to be brought up a lot from Brene Brown's wisdom. But here's something that Earnest Holmes is going to start off our thinking today. It's such a healthy way to look at healthy vulnerability is what I'm pointing to. Every one of us has in back of us the potential of the universe. Just think about that. What is that? There is an irresistible potential pressing against everyone for self-expression. If we listen, we shall hear it, not as a voice, but as a feeling, as a divine urge to express, the divine urge back of all of us, within all of us. It's right there, pressing against the field of our heart. So let me ask you, how many times in your life so far have you wanted to express yourself, but you only mumbled. And you hid behind someone else who seems to have more confidence than you. And you think, why should I put myself out there? They're doing it just fine. But what is that robbing you of? And then, why dance? Why get up and dance? Just because somebody didn't ask you to dance? Get up and dance anyway. Be part of the party. And why sing a solo when just blending in the choir is just fine? Not bad things, but think about where you have made yourself small. Why take an art class and risk being really bad? Earnest Holmes reminds us the irresistible potential, pressing in for self-expression. That is the divine urge. I want you to almost feel it as the space in between each heartbeat. Pressing for self-expression by means of you, a call to step into the invitation. It's not because others are ever braver than you that are doing it. It's because they can no longer suppress that urge to actualize the spirit within them. They open to that irresistible potential within. Now, we're always encouraged to express fully in this lifetime and not to live small. We all recognize that our growth will quicken when we understand that this is the love of the divine that's always backing us. And John O'Donohue, when he talks about this in The Invisible Embrace, he says, love is that great shelter within which vulnerability can be shown and gradually healed. It can be healed, that vulnerability. It's a matter of trusting that risk. Go through the challenges and then allow your true potential to be revealed. That is our God nature being revealed. So we revisit Brené Brown's definition of vulnerability as a state of emotional exposure that comes with a certain degree of uncertainty. We always want to know what's going to happen. You don't when you're in that space of vulnerability. It involves you and a person's own willingness to accept the emotional risk that comes. It's going to come from being willing to love and to open and to be loved. It's going to come. And so you just, with full abandon, open your heart to it. You will survive, because it's always totally unmapped territory, nothing to worry about there. As we dive deep in, then we step out. And who knows what will be revealed. You might think you're going to have a ticket to understanding, and you might even bomb, but it's okay, you still did it anyway. And that's what I appreciate, what Steve Smith has done for us by bringing the open mic, bringing that possibility for all of you to no longer live small, but say, I have a poem. This girl, Susan, she came 2 weeks, and I've been watching online, very sweet. And she blows me away. She shows up at open mic and gives the most awesome poetry recital, the things that she's written. I honor you. I know I'm making you blush, but it's such a testimony of what I'm talking about. You're walking the walk, that willingness, that bold attempt to share yourself in this. Standing up on stage to sing a song, to tell a story, to even recite a poem that has amused you for all its life. You stand up here and you know what you get? Applause. Everybody just so supports you out in the audience. They're all like, right on. Another, more. Yeah. It's living out loud, it's exposure, and it's met with love. It's met with a sense of that divine urge pressing against us, and we tried, and we stood up to it. Now, I know you've heard some of my stories before, and I know you might be going, oh no, the ant farm story. Heard this one. She always kind of elaborates a little differently each time, and I probably will again. But it fits here because I want to pull the threads of where I am now. But that my third grade experience of entering the science fair, and I had my ant farm, and that was my first bold attempt of sharing one of my passions at the big science fair. I loved ants. I communicated with ants. I feel bad that I put them in a mayonnaise jar. I do. I feel bad about that, because what was so daunting to me was thinking I was doing them a great good by having such a great environment for them to thrive, only to see them carry around their dead carcasses at the top. And I thought, what am I doing wrong here? But I researched more, and I tried to really elaborate my understanding in my posters and my handwritten essay. I was proud of it. I sat it up. I got dressed up. I can still see it. I had my little pink quilted top and my matching quilted pink skirt. I had brand new white socks and my Oxfords, because I always had to wear my Oxfords. But there I was, and I was just like ready to present as people went by. But they sat me up next to the real ant farm, right? The kind of skinny ones that are about this big. Parents had hand-typed their report. Not that I was bitter about that. I thought we had to do it all ourselves, but I'm not complaining this many years later. But my personal growth, I still felt proud, because I had one little tunnel that was showing up in my mayonnaise jar, and I was so proud of it. One little friendly ant was just like, get me out of here, probably saying that to me, but I let them free when I got home. But I still was proud. The other one run the blue ribbon, and I still didn't, a little envy, but I still didn't like, I never do this again, and run and take my toys. But the only thing that got me was people making fun of mine. That hurt. That was embarrassing, even as a child, to hear people pointing and laughing at what you did. And I probably totally blew it out of proportion. But it didn't stop me. I joined the science fair the next year with my moth understanding. I don't know what's so interesting about moths, but I drew pictures about those and wrote my reports and didn't win anything. But you know what I do? Think about this, all of you. I'm still making workshops, right? I'm still presenting stuff. I'm still inviting you to come look at my stuff. Right? It hasn't stopped me. No, it's because something impresses upon me, do this. I have a group that we have a dinner party together, and they always know when it's coming over to our house. Charlie goes, what kind of workshop are they going to have to do before they eat? Oh, just a few little cards under their table. But I digress. It's, the idea is, I know we have all had these. We can remember moments of feeling shame or embarrassment. It comes and it goes. But we also realize that is grist for the mill, grist for the growth. The heart opens when we apply that loving kindness. And it was mostly my parents, my family, that always got me through those tender times. So I fiercely supported my own children in anything that they wanted to, no matter what it was. I can remember Lindy, I told her have her permission here. I won't look at her. But, she even wanted to try soccer. And she had the little shin splints on and the socks and stuff, but she had no clue about soccer. That ball came and went, and she'd be out there just dancing, being cute in her pigtails. Lindy, go after the ball. That lasted just a few weeks. But what entertained her was performing. And I love the way both of my children, of all the things they've done, they're willing to play their instruments, share their voice, sing their song. Now, it wasn't always that easy for Lindy. She inherited the awkward inability to ever do a cartwheel from me. Oh man, I tried as a young child. How many people cannot do a cartwheel? these are my people. Because I would try, and they just say, just let your legs go, wee, and it would just be thump, thump. I just was it terrified me. So she was in a dance recital with the cartwheel was part of the dance. She could not do it. She could not do it. So they made another part for her. All the other girls are doing cartwheels, but she got to do this cute little thing. She stayed in the show. She stayed in there. You admit, I can't do that. Other times, she shared with me just now when I asked her if I had the permission to share some of her tender, vulnerable moments. And she goes, oh, that was in Starship. Sometimes if the act came and they had to do something, she would very skillfully run off stage during that part and then run back on. Brilliant. Brilliant ways to adapt, and we all have that. So these stories, my stories, some of my stuff, but they're the outcomes. It's the outcomes and what we live with after that. And in all of that, we connect in our sharing. We connect with empathy and understanding and compassion for each other. And here was I love this story because I can relate to this one. It was a minister's group, and he said, I was once with a group of pastors for a conference, and at one point we split into the groups of 3 to share what was going on in our lives, highs and lows. And then we prayed for one another. And to be honest, I was most comfortable when I was doing the praying. I can relate to that. It's easier to pray for another. But being prayed for, on the other hand, left me vulnerable, exposed, and with nothing to do but receive the prayer. But it was ultimately quite powerful. It was a reminder that I don't have to do everything, that others are there to support me, and I am not alone. So he realized he was valued and cared for by others. And he was a Lutheran pastor in that knowing. So again, living out loud, we have to express. We stand in our power, not to overpower, but to lean into that knowing, that divine urge in us to help others find their voice and their expression. It will guaranteed be transformative on every level. And I understand right now, society has proven itself rather cruel and has a lot of bullies. We can't sugarcoat some of the unskillful ways we've witnessed, the unkind behavior, but we still have a voice. And so one of my favorite teachers of all time has been Gandhi. And this is a book called The Great Soul by Mahatma Gandhi. And as I was writing this, I kept thinking, I love the movie. If you've never watched the Gandhi movie, it really portrays a lot, and it shows you the power of this single man, why he got so much attention in his lifetime. But I want to take you back just for a moment, just briefly. Think about the culture he was in. Okay, way back there, he had gone from his home country in India into England to be studied and scholared. And so he had to, that's a whole different culture from what he lived in India. And one of the stories was South Africa had challenged him. He had spent some time in South Africa from the start to explain what he thought he was doing there. What do you think you're doing here in your brown skin? That's what he meant. And in more precisely, he said, in my brown skin, my natty frock coat, my striped pants, and my black turban. And it was something that in their tradition, they always wore the turban out of respect. In the English tradition, you take your hat off, right? In the Indian culture, you keep it on as a sign of respect. And he was brutally humiliated and written up in the local newspapers for how unwelcomed he was for being so disrespectful. But he wrote right back. He didn't just go, oh, nobody likes me here, I'm going to go to my own country. He shot off the letter and he tried to deflect or deflate the white sentiments, just as if it was a mark of respect among Europeans to take their hats off. The Indians show respect by keeping their head covered. In England, attending a drawing room meeting and even parties, Indians always keep the headdress, and the English ladies and gentlemen seem to appreciate the regard which we show thereby. So he just explained himself. Didn't take his toys and run. Explained himself. But here's the one. And it's very clearly portrayed in the movie, in his autobiography movie. Because it shows this moment where he's on the train. Did you guys see that movie? He's on the train, right? And he's coming back. He's a lawyer. He's well educated. He's taken on some of the English customs, but there he is, dressed and sitting in his seat he paid for in a first class, but it was making a white person uncomfortable. What's he doing in here? So the conductor was trying to get him off the train. And he held his ground. He held his ground. He held his ground. He's held his ground. And they threw him off the train. Boom. So that was the moment they called him. The white passenger objected to having shared the space with a coolie. And he, getting booted off that train only led him again to write letters and to stand up for himself and to begin to make, from that moment on, a very powerful difference in the life of caste systems and all of the peoples of India. So it's powerful to think about what his vulnerability, his humiliation added to the vulnerability, only made him the most strongest leader in the world. Those are the defining moments. That's the ones we take actions and we express ourselves and we make deeper connections, not only with others in society, but with the divine within. Because when we surrender to that divine call, that divine urge, we get stronger, we are empowered. So the adventure is to start your conversation. Start a conversation even when it feels uncomfortable. Don't just blurt something out. Give yourself time to think about it. But we're not always open at the moment. We just want always to have safe space. It won't always be there for us, so you have to be bold. And we have to allow our authentic spirit to keep showing up. This is building relationships. This is living out loud. And this is building a better world that works for all. As we increase self-awareness and accountability, we're opening to growth and transformation. So this is not, vulnerability as we talk about it this month, is not about weakness. It's not. It's just recognizing God's got my back. God has my back. And I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up and not try to pretend to be something that I'm not, to put a mask on and just trying to show up. Earnest Holmes says, we resist being what we really are. We need to accept the fuller expression of the mind, the one mind that's within us, for its creative flow through us rests. In that creative flow rests our entire future. The greater person that we are and the richer life we desire to enjoy is right there as we boldly take this encouragement to stand in our truth. He also says we should come then to this great reservoir of nature, to this infinite side of ourselves, in full and simple trust and in confidence and in faith. Earnest Holmes. Seeing the possibilities today, as you leave here today, see the possibilities. See where you can take the small steps and where you can begin to put love into expression and be in service to others. Reflect on that this week as we prepare for our form of Easter celebration. It will be celebrated with the choir and their lovely music. I have a small gift for everyone. But it's about transformation. It's about using this time to really soul search. How can I live bigger? And I reflected as I was writing on this, how when our heart gets hurt sometimes, it feels like it's just cracking. And Leonard Cohen, as only he could do in that lyrics of the anthem that he wrote, there's a crack in everything That's how the light gets in. That leaves us hope, doesn't it? In the darkest of our times, that's where the light gets in. So I'm going to invite Judy to come forward. And I'm inviting you to think this week about selfless love, to look at ways that can measure your courage. And as we go into prayer today, go ahead and start playing, Judy. I invite you to meditate a little bit, to drop in. And if your heart is closed, contracted in any way, if some of the stories you've been reflecting upon felt like your heart got stuck, take a deeper breath and know that there's a divine urge there, longing to blossom and to open to you. Pema Chodron says, how we stay in the middle between indulging and repressing is by acknowledging whatever arises, whatever comes up without judgment. Let the thoughts simply dissolve. Go back to the openness of the very moment. So go back to the opening of your heart. How long will it take? Beloveds, it takes the rest of your life. She goes on to remind us we're continuing to open further, learning more, connecting further with the depths of all human suffering and human wisdom, coming to know both those elements thoughtfully and completely, and becoming more loving and compassionate people. The teachings will continue. Play to the edge. Play to the edge. Feel your heart. Feel where tears might press against your eyes. But feel it and express it. Write your own poem. Write your own story. And be willing to gently share it with another and saying, I need to be heard. Or if you see someone suffering, there is that deep knowing as you offer this prayer, this awareness, this opening, this visioning of who I can be, who am I becoming. I begin to realize I'm so much more than I've ever been. I've been living small. And the invitation here today is to live out loud and to reach across the aisle and to love one another and to love the self. You see, it's right there in that commandment. Love yourself. Hold yourself. Heal yourself. So thank you, God, for the wisdom of all of the teachers who continually express a truth that we can hold on to so that we can grow and transform. I give such thanks for each one of you willing to listen. I release these words knowing that you take it in your own way, but I know you're going to take it to your greater good. I know that. That's what this philosophy is all about. So I release the prayer, and so it is. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Dalton.
Hello again. This next song, took a little bit of a chance on it, but it turns out I think it's going to fit very well with what we just heard. It's a song about extending the very kind of healing to somebody else that Reverend Sue was just talking about. Most of the people who know me know I've been obsessed with this song for sort of more or less since I heard it. It's a song by John Darnielle, who performs as the Mountain Goats, even though it's really just him, and whoever he happens to be playing with at the time. And as you can see there, it's called You Were Cool. song with the same 4 chords I use most of the time when I've got something on my mind and I don't want to squander the moment trying to come up with a way to say what I want to say. People were mean to you, but I always thought you were cool, clicking down the concrete hallways in your spiked heels back in high school. It's good to be young, but let's not kid ourselves. It's better to pass on through those years and come out the other side, having stared down demons, down demons, and come back breathing. People were mean to you, but I always thought you were cool, clicking down the concrete hallways in your spiked heels back in high school. You deserve better than you got. Someone's gotta say it sometime, 'cause it's true. People should have told you you were awesome instead of taking advantage of you. I hope you love your life now like I love mine. I hope the painful memories only flex their power over you a little of the time. We held on to hope of better days coming, and when we did, we were right. I hope the people who did you wrong have trouble sleeping at night. People were mean to you, but I always thought you were cool, clicking down the concrete hallways in your spiked heels back in high school. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Dalton. That took me back to high school
With your spiked heels.
and grade school. But I'd like to invite the ushers up. And thanks for living out loud. So in preparation for the offering, just think of the money or the offering that you have being held close to your heart, knowing that when you give it to this center, you're giving it from your heart. And that everything that is offered and given flows through each and every one of us here in this center and allows this center to stay strong and growing, and to be that light that attracts others into this community. So we give great thanks for that, knowing that every gift is a treasure. And so it is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
I give thanks for the blessed donations received in the offering this morning and throughout the week. I give thanks for everyone's contribution to this center and for the growth of this center. So with deep respect and love, I simply say thank you. And together we say, and so it is. So we have a final song from Dalton, and just a reminder, we have the social hall, and we have the art and collectibles sale in the foyer. And when Dalton's done, we'll come up and say goodbye. But thank you for coming as well.
All right, if I could ask everybody to stand on up, please. There you go. This is a pretty easy call and response. Stretch yourselves out, establish some space around yourselves. It's a lovely Sunday morning. It's my idea of perfect weather. It might not be everybody's, but we're about to emerge into that glorious winter April sunshine. This is a prayer written, sort of adapted from. I don't remember, Reverend, so what's this adapted from? TN's.
Yeah, it's TN. It's the blues prayer, loving kindness prayer.
Do you remember what specifically it's adapted from? There's a particular passage, I thought you told me that one time. Anyway, it's a call and response.
Pretty smart back then.
It's a call and response song, and I hope you'll raise your voices along with mine. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free. May I be free. May my friends be happy. May my friends be peaceful. May my friends be free. May they be free. If anyone has hurt me, I now freely forgive. If I have hurt anybody, may they forgive me now. May they forgive me now. May my enemies be happy. May my enemies be peaceful. May my enemies be free. May they be free. If anyone has hurt me, I now freely forgive. If I have hurt anybody, forgive me now. I forgive myself right now. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. May they be free. May we all be free. May we all be free. May we all be, what's that word?
Oh, thank you. That is such a healing song. And it reminds me to tell you that Tiambalu will be traveling through in June, and she's going to be our guest here on one of the, I think it's the first Sunday of June, so mark your calendars for that. Thank you. That's a perfect song for this moment. Thank you. The practitioners are up here in service to you today. If something came up for you and you'd like some spiritual support, they're right here for you. And next week, please join us for Easter, an hour of your time, and then you can go have a fabulous brunch. We need to know if your children will be here. The Rizzi clan does awesome Easter children's celebration. So we're praying for a sunny day so they can do their egg thing outside. So thank you for today, and enjoy living out loud. Thank you.